Srimati Ramandan. In my morning message, I have adumbrated that the root cause as well as the summum bonum of all problems of the world is nothing but imbalance. Not non-availability of resources or something laudable, but imbalance. They are not reachable or reached to every needy member of the community. This imbalance is a major problem that will lead to immediate time-taking, long-term process of decay ending in chaos. So now we are facing serious imbalances which may lead to chaos. And which is the one major missing unit or missing force or missing factor that has causated this entire disorder. We give only one simple answer, that it is nothing but ethical collapse or ethical disaster. So ethics, that's what I used to say in my lecture on ethics and empowerment. I mentioned that ethics should wed power. If power is wed to, the same power is married to any other factors like avarice or arrogance or various other ill derivatives of these two major things. Arrogance as well as avarice, these two things are the major forces which are innumerable offsprings or derivatives which architects the collapse. If ethics marries power, then the result is peace and harmony. If power is married to avarice or authoritative arrogance, then the result is total chaos, immediate or time-taking chaos. So what we should do? We should organize the matrimony, marital understanding and harmony between ethics and power. To bring both these things together is the immediate global agenda. So here, ethics is the only solution, and absence of ethics or domination of unruly heads against ethics in the global system is the root cause of all problems. So what we should do? We should create, see, ethics, enlistment of ethical principles. It is very easy. And the greatest technology is not narration, description about ethics. It is not enlistment pattern of ethics, I've already told. What we need is ability to instill the ethical qualities sustainably in the needed hearts is the great art. So art of depiction and description about ethics is just a small exercise. It is an elementary exercise. The ability to instill the principles and empower the ethical people, it is much essential for the society. That's why we made a program earlier known as ethical vision and vaccination. What is ethical vision? In order to bring ethics into practice, we should understand how it can be customized. Because all people may not have the same rate of collapse or decay. All people's penetrability and receptivity rates, they are different. Our accessibility rates are different. So based upon these three factors, accessibility, their receptivity and our impact creating ability as well as various other environmental factors, they should be considered before approaching people. So the art of inculcation or injection of ethical qualities, that is very much essential. So complete vision as well as vaccination. What is vaccination? If a person is vaccinated, then there is no chance of the same disease to come after. Likewise, ethical vaccination is a strong imprint of ethical principles, morale with courage inside a person, by which even if compelled, because there are 5 modes or circumstances: casual circumstances, competitive circumstances, challenging circumstances, critical circumstances and crucial circumstances. I can talk about ethics in casual circumstances. In competitive circumstances, I can maintain. In challenging circumstances, I used to tremble. In critical and crucial circumstances, I have to abdicate to ethics for the sake of my well-being or safety. So, art of ethical preaching in casual and competitive circumstances are simple and silly. They don't deserve any appreciation at all. Can you practice the same ethics when you are put under a challenge at times of cruciality and criticality? Is it practicable or extendable? That is the challenge here. So the art of implanting ethics and creating an indelible vaccination system where the person won't getting into something that is unethical. He will not get into anything unethical by his natural means on all these 5 status. Even in various other status, I have told about criticality and cruciality. Even at the stage, the person will prefer to be tenacious. He will be clinging to the truth and moral precision. This is what we have to bring. And basically, ethics should be taught as a subject. See, there are 3 things. They are talking about 3 things are very much essential. They are talking about few hindrances in student success. Students' access, I am telling you, not student success, students' access. First is language. If you are talking in English, especially, whether it be an Indian slang or an European or Western slang, language itself is a burden. And language with an European as well as a strong vocabulary and slang, it is a double-barrel gun against the students. They have to appreciate the language and understand it, and also the slang. Apart from that, fluency, flow of the language, force of the language, logical conciseness and organization, and voluminous contents put by different people, they are nothing but a neural torture for the students. But how to justify this? Knowing this, how we are doing? Because we are believing in a system known as presence and attention. Try to understand it. Somebody was telling today while we were discussing, the person was saying that you are talking with a high speed. Then I told that I am not sure whether my delivery is with a speed process or your listening and receiving ability is associated with a slow process. I don't know. As people, they have not been exposed to such learnings. Especially people are now visual oriented. These people are attracted towards televisions. They have not been attentive as well as accustomed to hear such lectures in future. When I was using few words, people started saying, why can't you replace with simple words? Then I told that instead of me making my dictionary thin, why can't you make it thick? It's not exposure of our wisdom or scholarly nature. It is to create, instigate the enthusiasm inside the people to attend and observe more. And moreover, we have one more pacifier also. Whatever we are going to speak and we have spoken earlier, they should be processed. You cannot expect direct food from the agricultural field. You cannot expect saris and dhotis from the plants. They produce only the resource or raw materials. So when we produce something, we should understand that it needs different levels of processing before reaching the students. Number 1, whatever we have spoken as dry core, hard core message, they should be immediately simplified with illustrations and contextual examples that are closer to the hearts and observation of the people. Step number 1. Number 2, they should be translated into the vernacular languages in which they are more comfortable. Third thing, they should be given the right to respond to what they are given by means of 3 things. Explain what we have written. Make more elucidated version of what I have spoken. A. B. Raise your doubts, objections and refutations if any. Third thing, innovatively you think about something and fill up the blanks which I have not told you. So it is an interactive exercise. Interaction need not be interpersonal in physical presence. We have interaction, lifelong interaction by means of sharing the ideas, making it into 3 sections: sanctification, simplification and sophistication. Simplify the knowledge and make it sophisticated, because mere simple knowledge will not solve the society. It will not give any solution to the social issues. Highly sophisticated knowledge will not reach the society. So to reach the society, make it simple. To revive the society, make it powerful. So it should be, somebody asked me, what do you want? A powerful language and simple language. Then I told that to reach, you need a simple language. To vibrate into the society, you need a powerful language. It should be there. And it should be sanctified. It should not be with any hidden agenda, secret agenda, silent agenda, clandestine goals and other things. So simplified version should be sophisticated, then it should be sanctified, and it should embrace the entire society. Enlightening is the ultimate purpose. That's what we should do. So it needs to be transcribed, then translated and illustrated. Then it should have an interactive journey with raising their objections and suspicions. And also saying that how far they can explain what they have understood from us. Third thing is very interesting, how you can innovatively think and suggest something which you have forgotten or failed to understand. That you can do. So the purpose of every speaker, you know what is the duty of a speaker? Every duty of a speaker should be focused on According to Shastras, Shrota, Vaktropekshiya, Dviguno Bhavet. Every listener should be converted into. The success of a speaker is not to produce appreciation, but absorption and application in near future. If it is immediately imagined, it may not be possible. So, regarding ethics, we have to make a small syllabus. Today, it is the inaugural ceremony for creating a manual of simple ethics, threshold of ethics. We are going to create a manual, and within a month, we are going to release it. It may be an objective under the curricular system, it may be extracurricular or optional even in nature. So we have to understand various aspects of what we call ethics. Fragmental ethics is to start with few dimensions. Formal ethics is respect everybody, stand if somebody is coming, give water to the thirsty. This is formal ethics. Fragmental ethics is ethics that is practiced in some area, religious ethics, family ethics. It is known as fragmental ethics. You have that division also. Inculcative ethics is ethics that you preach to others. Whether you practice or not, that is secondary. That is inculcative. See, two people have right to say that you should not drink alcohol. One is a non-drunkard and second is a drunkard who can say that at least you can be healthy and you can be safe. So inculcative ethics is there. What is smart ethics? That ethics is preached which has a silent agenda of self-profitability. There are a lot of ethical institutions and ethical practices where the ethics is preached. For example, somebody is preaching some health awareness in the society. Then later on they found that it is a silent agenda with a secret methodology of marketing their products in the pretext of health awareness. So that is known as smart ethics, they used to say. And we have innumerable things. Compensatory ethics. I have seen a lot of people crushing human beings and exploiting their sweat and blood, but feeding animals and safeguarding this animal welfare and other things. It is compensatory ethics. Complex ethics is to think about abortion, to think about vegetarianism, and various other sensitive issues are known as complex issues or complex ethics. Simple ethics, you know, honesty, that is a simple ethics. Honesty and sincerity is known as simple ethics. Rigid ethics is creating an ethical orbit and see that all people are totally tormented in the name of ethics is known as rigid ethics or ethical rigidity. That is there in the society. Contextual ethics are there. Few things are practiced on few contexts which may not be applicable to other characters. It is only contextual in nature. That is also there. Subtle ethics is there. Worshipping God and doing offense to God, blasphemy. These things are subtle which cannot be envisioned with the human intelligence and purview. That is known as subtle ethics. Super ethics is how ethical guardians should behave. The ethical behavior of ethics guardians, that is known as super ethics. The ethical base of all ethical systems is known as meta ethics. 12 divisions are there according to tradition. How many ethics are there? In this division, there are innumerable ethics. Nano ethics, bioethics, eco-ethics, fronto-ethics, then robo-ethics, geo-ethics, techno-ethics, eco-ethics. You can put anything into ethics because everything is unethical. So you have to put ethics, you have to suffix with everything because somebody asked why all these systems have collapsed. Then they get simple reason, simple answer, because they are handled by human beings. When man handles, then you can see both the blunder and wonder. Miracle and misery are the two sides of human contribution. We can see that. Because man, I used to say, just humorously, man is nothing but manufacturer of all nuisances, MAN, in one area. So what we have to do is, we have created 5 major principles or codes for ethical evaluation. 5 things are there. One is dealing with sacrifice and success. If you practice ethics, what you are going to get? Then I told, being proud that I am practicing ethics, but only in mature people it will come, not for any other benefit. Being able to practice ethics unshakably or impregnably, that is my benefit. I don't want any other benefit. But this is the mentality of mature people who may be a handful of people in the society. Few people may be ready to sacrifice their lives for ethics. But if ethics is made as a complete subject of sacrifice, nobody will be interested in practicing ethics. So, few people, naturally, even though they are ready for 3 things, service, higher level, highest level. High level is, I am ready to do service for ethics. In higher level, I am ready to struggle for ethics. In highest level, I am ready to sacrifice something for ethics. But these 3 models are applicable only to few members of the society. These 3 people, these 3 group of people should ensure success to the mass. If success is not granted to ethical practices, most of the people will be thrown away from ethics or they will throw away ethics. we should understand. So, how we can create a successful ethical model without any struggle and sacrifice necessities. Those who are struggling and ready to sacrifice, they should architect such a model and produce it to the society. Second thing is safety and support. If, for example, they were telling about corruption, unless I bribe somebody, I may not get proper medical treatment. What I should do? I should not give bribe. Okay? Then what about my treatment? If there is a mechanism which is not only advising us to not to offer bribes or to accept bribes, if it has a support associate mechanism or support apparatus where without bribing that particular facility is made available, then people will be encouraged to practice it. Second, you are against social evils. If somebody is going to come and attack, who will protect the person? Who will assure the safety of the person? So, if you strongly follow the principles of ethics, what about your support and supply? What about your safety and security? So, we have to create a trilateral mechanism, one of advisory status, second is of protective status, and third is of promotive or supportive status. Unless a trilateral concern for the ethicists as well as the ethical practitioners who are genuinely interested in practicing as well as promoting this ethics is not given, then we can imagine this type of ethics only in autism rather than in realism. So what we need to create a support and safety mechanism. You will get the same thing without going unethical. If your need or demand is reasonable, you will be safeguarded with all measures if you are following us and if you are fighting a wage or raising your voice against the anti-ethical missions. So this should be provided. Third thing is very interesting. There should be perfect assembly of all ethical systems. One ethical system should not collapse with another ethical system or ethical system of some other areas. He was mentioning about Swiss bank, tax havens in the world. They promote lot of, that creates lot of opportunities for money accumulation, which are invested there with utmost safeguarding abilities and facilities. They are provided. So what we should do? Only funds of charity. Wherever you find something in the society, one is rigidity and second is intelligence or flexibility. If the social welfare activities are curbed, then you cannot promote the society. If the antisocial activities are not curbed, then certainly it will also collapse in society. So, if a country's economic policy or the banking policy is directly or indirectly inducing unethical embezzlement or enrichment of members of various nations, then the policy is anti-global, anti-economic in nature as well as anti-social. So when there is a global federation with mutuality in trade, technology, immigration and various other things, we are all interlinked in a global village. So it is the duty of the so-called beneficiaries. Who are the beneficiaries? They are the rulers now. Those who ought to change the rules are benefited by the earlier rules and the earlier conditions where they won't be interested in digging their own graveyards and printing their own funeral invitations. They will not be interested. So what we should do, I have already told, if administrative side is not working properly, altruistic side and affected side should raise their voices and compensate administrative absence, negligence, silence or any other things. So what we should do, we should make a perfect assembly where everybody can live together. So that is known as ethical assembly. So here he mentioned about Switzerland, in which a country's economic policy is against global economic justice. So we should understand that indirectly promotes embezzlement of wealth, that facilitates, that enfranchises the person to embezzle more with more safety and assurance, that gives them the technology of undue enrichment and more appeasement. So all these things are provided. What we should do? So there should be perfect assembly of all principles toward the goal. That is what we used to say, deplantation. If somebody is developing, for example, somebody is admitted in a hospital for a treatment for kidney, the doctor says, if you remove your liver, I can make you alright. Then what is the use of the person living without liver and with the kidney? So what we should do, instead of transplantation, what we are making is deplantation. Everything is promoted at the cost of sacrificing an equivalent attribute or even an excellent opulent. Either you damage some other thing of the same land or the same thing of some other land and you disturb the society and promote yourself. What you want is steady progress. Now they are in need of a fastidious progress without understanding that it is fatal, and even after understanding they are clouded by the rays of avarice where they are tempted to do more, which is more nourished by our silence and absence of collective So what we should do? We have to create perfect assembly. And fourth thing is sensitive ethics. Somebody told there are hundreds of principles of ethics. Whatever that is accepted in the world, you enlist major things, and that which is sensitive, that which is accepted, that which is immediately impactful, you enlist everybody and you impart this thing and see that it is immediately executed. To create a sensitive version of ethics where it is already deep-rooted, it is going to disroot the entire society, it is going towards the fatal end. So this sensitive ethical directory should be made, and immediately that should be implanted in the social machinery with emergency and urgency instincts. It should be immediately done. And finally, we used to say in our Shastras that there is ELS system: education, law and spirituality. There are three systems for ethical inculcation. We want to be ethical. How to be ethical? You see, answer is known to everybody. What is the solution for poverty? Money. What is the solution for hunger? Food. This is known to everybody. Then how to provide that food? Are you going to food? Are you going to provide that food? Are you going to provide that wealth? That is the answer. People need food, not answer for their poverty and hunger. They need money as well as food. In direct vision, in personal experience, in vicinity they want to hold it. So education, law and spirituality, there are three systems. These three engineers, academic engineers, legal and judicial engineers, and spiritual engineers should create a tripartite championship and companionship to put together their efforts to see that they can create an ethical society. Education informs ethics, that you should do like this, these are the things to be done. Law confirms ethics, you should do this, otherwise you will not get contributed to justice, you will be subjected to retribution. So education informs, law confirms, and spirituality performs. A spiritual person need not be informed or explained or confirmed or convinced by anybody. Spontaneously, the person is inclined to do something. So we have to balance the social ethical moorings by means of creating education to inform and law to confirm and to emphasize the same, as well as spirituality to make the person perform by himself, by his innate spirit. So we have to create this balance. And second point is, in order to create anything favorable, we need a mass force. Mass force is known as public, and massive force is known as politics or government. Unless there are only two channels. Within these two channels, you have to catch something. Otherwise, whatever you are doing is just a simple exercise. You will be doing throughout your life, and throughout your transmigrational circles also, you will be doing that without any effect or without any sustaining effect. You should approach either the massive force or the mass force or direct something with the other. Something should be done. And you know that everybody is calling now democracy, and there is no democracy at all now. Democracy, I gave a lecture on democracy. There I mentioned that democracy means it is the rule of the people. It does not confine that the people should be within a nation. So naturally somebody was asking, why you are extending the meaning of democracy, which belongs to a nation, to the world? Then I told that I am not extending or expanding. You are shrinking the explanation for a global vision to a national perspective. For a national perspective, you are shrinking a global vision and dimension. That's what I mentioned. So it is for people means the people of the entire world. Even in a national boundary is meant for administrative facility. An organization with your own history, with your own background, everything. So to assemble yourself, organize yourself within a boundary and to facilitate proper focus and action, nations have been created. Not to fight with one another or to frustrate other people, not to poke your nose inside these people. It's not so. It is for organizational facility, it is for your assemblability and amalgamation as per your historical perspectives and the imprints. It is something created for that purpose. It is not to be separated and to fight with people and compete with people. These are all boundaries. Just as there are states inside a nation, nations are meant for creating boundaries just as reception centers for other nations, to welcome other people. I have created a peace diary in which I have mentioned every border, every country's border has two purposes. One, to receive the good-hearted people and to prevent the ill-hearted from entering inside the nation. That is known as border. Not to create boundaries and to be separated from other people with crooked sense or the sense of narrow wisdom. So it is something entirely different. And one more definition I always used to laugh at is about democracy. It is of the people, by the people and for the people. What does it mean? Of all people, by all people and for all people? It cannot be so. That should be some specific explanation for that. Now what we are saying is, it is of idiots. It is of idiots by crooked people or clever people, and it is meant for all culprits to prosper. That's what it is happening now. But the Shastra says, of denotes some people, by denotes some people, and for denotes some people. Democracy is the government or the rule of people. Of means here vigilant people. It is a rule of vigilant people by virtuous and vibrant people for the welfare of vulnerable and victimized members of this society. So this is how we have to mention that specific prefix that is latent inside that should be potentially exculcated and see that they can be presented in practical vigor. That is very much essential. That is we should see. So this is the definition that the tradition has. Now we are saying democracy and democracy. I told that democracy is a misspelled word in which N is missing. In democracy, N is missing. That means it is a democracy. The same pretext. Somebody asked me, give two differences between monarchy and democracy. Then I told that if the same person is given repetitive chances to spoil the country or to squeeze the resources, it is monarchy. The same thing is given to very various people, then that becomes democracy. If the person of the same clan can do that, that is monarchy. If all people invariably can do the same, that is known as democracy. So democracy is nothing but source, share and shift. What is source? Source for everything. Yes, I am getting the source to rule the country. The same source will be available to you also. That is justifiable. Everybody can get the source to rule. But share their benefits. See, you are my partner. And in monarchy, they used to have some hierarchies with a submissive. Now there is a collective rule. There is no hierarchy. All people united together, like members of parliament, they have collective responsibility and power. So they have to share the benefits with a lot of people to manage the team. And shift. Now it is my time to loot. Tomorrow you will have your own shift. So shifting, sharing of the loots as well as sources of the nation has become democracy now. And one more major point I want to say that is very much essential to note this point now. Democracy has its own conceptive or philosophical error. For example, if they are given the right to select their own ruler based upon their own welfare, they should be clearly knowledgeable of what is welfare for them. But that is not there. Most of the people are nescient of the definition for welfare. They don't know what is welfare at all. One. And number two, misconception about welfare. They are given clothes, they are given food, they are given few peripheral shares or fragmental shares. They think that it is the welfare. If somebody is giving something worthy of 100 rupees or $10 for you, we are not understanding that they are looting thousands of dollars of ours. So we don't have any knowledge about what is welfare. Nations, we think their peripheral duties. If a government is providing something, that is the duty. They are not spending out of their pockets. We used to think that it is a government's bounty. So this is misconception. And third thing is submersion. We don't think about welfare as we are clouded about personal benefits, party benefits, ethnicity, affinity within religious cadre. This person belongs to my religion, he belongs to my culture, he belongs to my ethnicity, he is a relative. So by these personal affiliations, all of our social welfare and social vigilance instincts are submerged. So we are not doing that. And finally, submersion means totally we do by ourselves. And finally it is diversion, where some other things are either staged or scattered in the society, where we fail to observe about the well-being caused by the political parties or the ruling system. So if you are not qualified enough to understand what is your welfare, what is your qualification to fix the person for your welfare, how you can fix a person for your welfare architecture. So we should understand that basically democratic training as well as democratic understanding should be given to the society. They should understand who is a good ruler and what is a good rule by means of three things. One is verification. They should verify. Second, they should scrutinize. If they don't have that much of knowledge to verify and scrutinize, at least they would have experience in their prospective lives. They can experience, they selected somebody, with their personal experience they can know how they are ruled and how they are promoted. So now, not only these basic three things, they don't have any sense about what is democracy. They have only one, they are given only one right. What is that? Your right is your wish. Whomever you wish that they should rule, the wish is the only parameter by which you select the government. Is it possible? You can select with your wish, your dress color, your painting, all the other personal things. You can select your own car. you can fix your own ringtone in your mobiles. These things are very simple things. Ephemeral issues, there you can have issue. Regarding selecting somebody for the nation, selecting a proper bride for the nation, you should see that the person is understood by personal experience, verification and scrutiny, and we should bring a change by electoral system. So unless you change governance and ruling systems by changing the democratic vigilance and intuitive vision of experiencing as well as creating an experiential result of how governments are there, it is very difficult to bring ethics or peace or world parliament or anything. If you create a world parliament, certainly that world parliament will emerge from parliaments of innumerable nations which are selected by people, those who are democratic in nature. So global leaders and peace activists create good citizens. Good citizens create good governance. Good governance assembly creates a good universal rule. That is the only possibility that we can produce in this society, which is not there. So what I want to say is, people, especially students, they are prevented from knowing about two things. One is political system and second is religion. Don't teach about politics and religion in schools. That is a major rule. What I am teaching here is, they should be taught. There are three dimensions. How they are great, what are the nuances, what are the subtleties, comparative studies and hermeneutics, all these things need not be taught. But three sections can be taught. One is essential, second is more essential, third is most essential. Teach them about the productive essence of politics and religion. How they can be made productive. Politics, productive by means of creating an organized society, good ruling where you can get all of your rights sanctioned, where you can live a peaceful way, where your fundamental rights are restored and rewarded. This productive side of politics and religion can be taught. That is essential. Second thing, how we can make both of these things harmless in nature, at least, that is more essential. Even if they are harmful, how we can protect ourselves and the nation from this ugly politics and religion is most essential. So I am not confirmed about the religious studies and political studies in details, just as it is there in political science and religious preaching centers. But certainly I am sure about the productive side. Even if you deny that productive side of both the things to be presented in the curriculum, I wish that how we can make these both the things innocuous in the society. Let them be personal things, political party, all these things, let be personal, without any social intrusion. Religion means you are thinking about God, meditating about God, you are feeling God, realizing, liberating, everything is your own personal thing. Emancipation and enlightenment is a personal thing, and its impact on the society should be positive, otherwise it can be insensitive with the society and remain at distance. So what we have to create is a harmless political as well as religious system, and see that how we can be protecting both the things, because unless the students are taught the art of countering ugly politics and religion in the society, their knowledge is handicapped, because they have to encounter, they don't encounter universities, great scholars and saints in the society. They encounter only stupids and useless people. Very harmful creatures and fiendish creatures they are going to counter in the society. So in that society, if they want to be successful or at least safe, they should be taught with the art of countering against the ugly politics and religion. Later on, if they get into some enlightenment, they can go into politics and religion actively. That's what I want to say. And finally, today somebody was talking whether global peace is possible. Then I told that this is in your faith system. If I say that somebody is going to dominate the entire world, people will believe. You make a public opinion poll where you ask the people, and how many people are believing that somebody is going to dominate the entire world? They will say yes, there are possibilities. If you say that someday the world is going to be totally destroyed, a lot of people will vote yes, that is correct. If you say that the whole world is going to collectively develop or exist with a peaceful coincidence, they will say that no, it is humorous, it will not happen. So such much is the faith level system. What we have to do, we have to irrigate the peace system with faith. That's why the Shastras told, faith is not the complete solution. The Shastras told, faith, force and function. You create first faith. If you believe that the whole beautiful creation of God can be destroyed, if you believe that somebody is going to destroy the entire thing, or if you think that somebody is going to have an unruly domination and preponderance over the entire denizens of the earth, you say that it is possible. When you say that the divine order of peace and harmony cannot be installed, then there is something wrong in your faith system. Your faith system is adulterated or sealed. So what we should do? Immediately create a faith in the minds of the people, raise a hope inside the minds of the people, that going to be a collective coexistence. Peaceful coexistence and collective survival and prosperity is possible, and it is going to happen. Second is force. It is not only saying that it is going to happen. It is to say that we are there with all of our minds, with all of our resources. We are going to do that. And third thing is function. We are not only keeping our forces and remaining silent, we are going to start work, and today is the work going to be started, and I am the person interested in doing, and you are the recipient. It is not a specification. It is not universal. See, you can be talking about universal, but all of your solutions can also be universal. But whenever you are giving a direction to people, it should not be universal. It should be specific. When you are going to start, from today, I have started already, but from today with more vigor. And who is going to be the beneficiary? For you. And who is going to do that? Myself. This is not a specification. We have to create faith, culture and cultivation in the society, and enhance the same thing with force as well as function. That we are going to do from today onwards. And this is an education institution, and our great people, they are told, what is education? Education is a provider of three things. One is knowledge. It is not only knowledge, because knowledge can be given only through books, and books are available at libraries, we can go through that. But it is giving the ability to execute the knowledge and ability to translate that execution into contribution. If your teacher can teach, she is only 1/3 teacher. If he can make you to execute, she is 2/3. If she can make you contribute, then she is a complete teacher, a gifted, great, grand, God-given teacher. GGGG. This type of teachers and these type of inculcation systems should develop. This is known as education. And we used to say, what is education? They used to say in our tradition that there is an EFSA mode. What is EFSA mode? In the society there are 4 people. One is the educated people. Second is employed people or functioning people, those who are working with the practical skills of the knowledge. And administrative people, those who are seeing that. And substandard people, neither they are administering the society, neither they are fully educated, neither they are, nor they are employed. So we are seeing a different society. It is the duty of educated and employed people to see that the others. He was telling about religion. I gave a small explanation about weeks back in a religious conference. How should be a religion? Because I told, nobody has understood scriptures. Nobody has been prophets. And nobody has personally realized God. What they see is the practitioners and the impact of them on their day-to-day life today. If there is peacelessness and unrest, if you are showing a book that was created before 5,000 years and saying that this book is written for peace, nobody will be believing, and it will not be interesting for them also. So, nobody knows about prophets, scriptures and gods. They are well introduced only by contemporary practitioners. Unless you show how great God is and how benevolent the scriptures are and how magnanimous the prophets were, you cannot get from practical vision what is a religion. They have to just assume something or imagine something. That's what I mentioned there, ended with a small statement. On seeing a religious practitioner, the spectator should understand or try to understand how compassionate, knowledgeable and powerful God would have been. So he should be a sample model for that God. The person should understand, yes, he is a practitioner of a religion. If he is compassionate, if he is knowledgeable, if he is powerful like that, God is told us the embodiment of all the three. This is a sample experience or observation by which I can imagine how infinite God is. So every person should be a sample version, an infinitesimal sample version of how compassionate, powerful and knowledgeable God is. Without having that visible proof, what we can do? And one more explanation they have given. Religion is not a list of ethics. See, ethics can be understood by common civilizational progress and process. You can understand what is ethics by yourself. You don't require any religion or scripture. Why they are mentioned there? Because religion is not only giving the list of what you should do, it is giving the source link of God, who is an embodiment of all of these virtues to you, so that you can practice it with more courage and success, and having the ability to impart the same thing to others. So religion has extra 3 dimensions. One, not only list of ethics, it gives you source link to the origination of all of these ethical principles. If you see honesty, if you see compassion, if you see altruism, all these qualities are emanated from God. He is an infinite repository and depository of all of these opulents or attributes. So it is giving source link. Second, that source gives you more wider practicing courage so that you can be a good ethical practitioner. Third thing, it also gives you the ability to impart and inculcate the same thing in others. If mere list of ethics are provided, religions are unnecessary and they are superfluous, because with mere common civilizational concern we can understand what is good and wrong. In our normal observation, even in elementary school syllabus, we are having the list of ethical fables. Ethics can be interpreted, illustrated in a very simple and attractive version in fables rather than scriptures. Scriptures are not required. It is not to create attraction or attention or to give introduction to ethics. It is to give empowerment to ethics so that you can achieve it and make others also to achieve or acquire the same. That is where we are in need of this type of religious scriptures. Then finally I told something about religious ethics. Human being is having some error, inbuilt error. Whenever he sees people equal to him, he gets envied. Somebody lower than him, the person immediately criticizes and keeps them at distance. Some greater people, he is having some phobia and he is not properly approaching them. So with greater people, with similar people and subservient or inferior people, he has some complex in moving with them and in federating with them for omni-networking. Omni-humanitarian networking is impossible because of inbuilt human errors. So religion is a special force of upgrading human mind setup, where instead of envying against the like-minded people, he will fraternize them and create an organized potential. Instead of creating an aversion towards the marginalized, he will create sympathy inside his mind, he will extend his arms. And instead of maintaining distance or maintaining some sort of phobic aversion and distance from great people, he will create loyalty and surrender towards them and absorb their potential. That is there. So religion is a special mind setup upgrading exercise by means of which the person will bow his heads to the great people, share the shoulders with his like-minded people, extend his kind and compassionate arms to the people in the inferior level. So it is an upgrading exercise of human mind setup in its consummate potential and glamour. This is possible only by religion. This is how we have to interpret as well as to implement in the society. That's what I told. All religions will have three errors. One is inscription error, second is interpretation error, third is implementation error. In a sensitive society, if you talk about inscription of scriptures as something wrong, the people may retaliate. So keep that in an interfaith perspective, keep the inscription criticality or criticism. We can talk about two things. If your religion is having battles, wars, conflicts, about differences, about the supremacy of your own religion, those things are meant for personal focusing, more focusing. If something is told about your own religion, that gives you three things. If something is extolled about your own religion, you will get more focused. You will get the pride of your own religion and your attention and performance will be enriched. It is only for your private platform. So all religious scriptural dimensions, all scriptures are bicephalous in nature. They have two heads. One head they are talking about fights and other things. There are wars and battles which we cannot negate. Second thing is peace, harmony, brotherhood, fraternity, universal amity, universal well-being, everything is there. How we can fix this? We have to fix this as the primary and secondary version. The primary version is the universal version, which is meant for public as well as the social platform. And the private version, whatever they have told about the greatness, battle and everything should be taken with a metaphorical sense in order to provide proper focus and pride so that you can get the benefits of a single religion. By making your attention more focused, you can get more concentrated with the version and get the benefits. This is how we have to safely interpret. If inscriptions cannot be put into any fault or blemish, the only other two opportunities are you create a different interpretation or create a proper implementation of the same thing in the society by institutionalization in the right sense. Let it be the same faith or interfaith, whatever it may be. That's what we have to design in this society. These education people, they should be taught about the ruling systems. The ruler who visibly rules the country and the invisible ruler of the entire cosmos, politics and religion, two major sensitive and sensational subjects should be taught not for practice. At least they can safeguard themselves and put it into right use and teach the same thing in the society, which is burning because of these two major inflammable agencies. Inflammable agencies are politics and the religion. So how they can safeguard? This should be taught to these people. And this is a wonderful gathering where we are talking about various subjects. Everybody was talking about various subjects and various dimensions they have approached. Just as I have already told, with the only confidence that we are going to provide them a transcribed version translated version and their own interactive participation in enrichment and improvisation of this syllabus, and possibilities of prospective seminars like this in all parts and with the same people. With these hopes, I think that this today's event will be meaningful and successful. If you consider a meaningful version only by taking into account the fluential renditions of innumerable people since morning, it may not be appearing as something promising or helpful to the students or any members of the society. But considering this as the raw material, if proper processing and propagation methodologies are associated with that, this will be the best meaningful exercise that has been ever done in the world, I believe, and also ensure that all the divine souls will be at our service because of the noblest task that we have taken with a cosmocentric view. Once again, I congratulate everybody, those who have participated and those who organized and supported and made this event successful as a successful beginning. Whenever you call something, you should call with the right name. We have not achieved anything, but we are going with the hope that we have started achieving something. What is that? That we will achieve, that hope we have started achieving. Whenever we see more people and mingle with more personalities, we are getting these opportunities. And especially teachers, they have been telling, teachers are having more power. Teachers are having more power. There are three definitions of getting knowledge. It is very interesting with illustration. One is to get something by a self-earning process. Second is a commercial purchase. Third is a beneficial or benevolent grant. You want food. You want food. If it is a self-earning purpose or process, what you will do? If you ask somebody who is not your mother or who is not having a hotel and who is not ready to give you any food, if you ask somebody food, what do you say? You have to purchase these ingredients. And for purchasing these ingredients, you have to give me petrol allowance, you have to give me vehicle, you have to give me money. If all these things are provided, you can purchase all of these things and cook by yourself and eat. And second thing, in a hotel, if you say that you want food, they will not give the list of ingredients. Everything is with us. You give the money, we will provide. Go and ask your mother food. She will not ask either for money or for the list of ingredients and various other things. In the first category, we have been given the list of ingredients and various other measures that have to be taken for getting a food. Second area, that list is not given. The strenuous exercise of getting the list, purchasing is not given. But everything is paid with the money where you are getting the food. Third area, because of bondage and affection, she feeds more than what you have demanded, more items with more sumptuous paraphernalia. She will provide everything without demanding the list in the first category or price or money in the second category. That is a motherly touch. Whenever we are going to scholars of the society, they will give lot of explanations. Scholars will give lot of explanations and we have to take personal risk in bringing everything. Second thing are great stalwarts. If you go to great stalwarts, those people, by their personal tutelage and tuition, by the tutoring, they will not go to you, they will not send you to look for innumerable library treatises and take you to the strenuous or Herculean task of imbibing everything. But they will provide also a equally risky knowledge, which is nothing but the summum bonum of what you are getting through books. And third thing, a motherly injection is, the mother will provide immediately whenever you are asked. So there are three members in peace activism as well as in global reformation or refinery exercise. We are having three people. Those who are having mere knowledge. Those who are having mere knowledge, they are like giving a list of ingredients and various other services and facilities required for just bringing everything so that the person, you should make the food and you should consume. They are scholars. In scholars, we have more work and they are simple work. And second thing is social animators or social activists. They not only give knowledge but also associate with you if you participate. That is only associate you. Third thing is a saint or a person with a spiritual vigor. The first thing is intellectual vigor. And second thing is vigor of mind. If the person is having mind and commitment to the society, the person can lessen your work more and he will be an associate. If there is a saintly person, a philosopher, a person with real spiritual realization, that person will say that just to open your mouth I will feed and you have to swallow it. Only such great people can transform this society. And ethics, I told in the seminar, my final conclusion or epilogue statement is, ethics require few associates. What is that? Ethics is a drug. You want to inject the drug inside the person. What do you need? First you need a syringe. Then the syringe should be associated with a needle at the top. The needle should have an eye, and it should select the right nerve, and it should penetrate inside. Isn't it so? Finally, what I am saying is, whatever we are told, everything is just vanishing in air or vanishing inside. They are having two terminus. One is the ether and second is the ear end. These are the two terminus for whatever we speak. But to go inside, what we need? Ethical contents are just like drug material. What is the syringe? Organized, simplified presentation using a logical, lovable language and reaching the mind with a motivational speech. It is like a syringe. And in that syringe, there should be a needle to penetrate. What is that needle? It is not only using language and logic, but also personalized, motivated move with the person. Your real interest in promoting the person, that is the needle, without which you cannot promote. If I am doing for my personal welfare or for my record, reward or reputation purpose, I cannot inject ethics in the society. What you need? Your personalized approach and commitment is the needle. Your spiritual ability and personal practice is eye of the needle. And understanding the person's receptivity, what is his response? Is it based on favor? Is he interested in favor? Or is he having fear? Is he having God sense? Is he having global sense? There should be a nerve in every person. Every person has a different nerve. Somebody will be managed by fear instinct. Somebody can be captivated by favor instinct. Somebody will be having personal sympathy or self-sympathy. Somebody will be interested in national prosperity. Everybody will have a soft corner where you can have a nerve to penetrate. So make the ethical contents available, which are already published by people. But the art of ethical implantation is in putting it in a syringe by means of a language and logic, and see that it is penetrated with a needle, which is nothing but your personalized commitment. This person's glorification of ethical transition, level phase transition, is nothing but my personal achievement. You should take it as not only a task, but also it should be taken as your personalized agenda. Then eye of the needle is your own practice and vigor, belief in ethical system. And it should select the nerve. So I wish that whatever we have made as contents, innumerable people, they have given a lot of contents. They should be organized in a container. They should pass through the eye of a needle in the right nerve so that it can reach the entire system and make people immune, so that they will fight against the unethical systems that are ruling the world. I wish that God's benign shower of benedictions be upon every personality, so that our journey, whatever you have committed or whatever we have crossed today, will be conducted or will be further taken with more force, and we will see the success soon. And it is not only positivism or optimism, it is realism. Somebody asked there was a seminar on national security, dream or reality. Then the person asked whether it is dream or reality. Then I told that if you are interested, you can make it as a reality. If you just leave like that, it will become a dream. So dream or reality is not an automatic question like sunrise and sunset. It is a question that you have to ask for yourself, and you have to give the answer whatever you need and whatever the society needs. Once again, we are hopeful of meeting together with more successful announcement and achievements. Narayana.